30 years ago, professional wrestling changed forever. Not because of a championship, not because of a five-star match, but because the biggest hero in wrestling looked into a camera and became the biggest villain. Three simple letters. nWo would reshape the industry forever.
Booking sheets and double turns, politics and slow burns, booking blunders, legends made, cities cheered and empires fade, tape trade tales, late night shows, broken noses, borrowed robes, line them up, we call the spot, give you all the weird they forgot. Sheep pop history. Let the crowd go wild on the memory. Every bell, every brawl, every mystery. Step inside the ring with cheap pop history.
Welcome back to another. Wait a minute. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Cheap Pop Society. Back at it one more again with Grandma. Grandma, great to see you back. We had some updates for weeks. It felt like that we knew we were getting closer and closer and closer, and here we are. So, how we doing?
Man. It was hey man, when you're NWO, you're NWO for life. Oh, it's good to be back. I've been dealing with. I've had freaking 3 surgeries in the past 3.5 weeks. Just I got a PICC line in, if you can see it, with wires coming out of me, and IV over here. But hey, the show must go on. You've been carrying it. You've been killing it. I'm very appreciative of my tag team partner having my back and going 2-on-1 with all the fans and by himself. And I'm back, and I'm happy to be back, and I'm ready to get into it and talk some wrestling. This is one of my favorite topics. Anytime you talk about the Monday Night Wars or NWO or the laundry list of what we're going to talk about today, it's my favorite time in wrestling. Like, it's like a capsule for me. So like everything that we're about to get into, like it's my like my happy space when I go back and watch old stuff from, I would say, like WrestleMania 10 to like 2001, I think that's my favorite little era. I don't know what generation that's called, but that's kind of my jam. So I'm
Same here.
excited for today's show.
I think it's because it's what we grew up with, right? And I, biasly enough, will say that we grew up with in the best time to watch wrestling, right? We were after the golden era explosion, and then we were before the ruthless aggression. Even though ruthless aggression was still my time, I was still just a teenager. But what we're getting ready to talk about here, it was
golden generation, like the
80s,
the Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something, brother.
Yeah,
I know he bled into like 40 years, but the golden era was, okay, I'm not gonna say Hogan, like Ultimate Warrior, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, all like before like WrestleMania 7, 8.
Officially, Mr. Google here officially says it was 1982 to 1992. So Hogan, Savage, Hart, Warrior, Robert, Flair, even when he was there, Ted DiBiase, British Bulldog.
So when Hogan left WWF, right?
Yeah. So he left in, like, I guess around that 92 time. So he was still there in 93, but I guess when business started going down, the pre-falling of the business was what they referred to as the golden era. Back when things were good. Until of course we get to what we're going to talk about here tonight. So we get to talk heavy on the side that I follow on in the Monday Night Wars, which is WCW. Right, unfortunately, was long-term was the losing side. But what we're going to talk about here tonight is something that shaped wrestling. I mean, we're here 30 years later and we're talking about it, right? So it's something that's forever changed the course of professional wrestling. But we're going to start before the dawn of the NWO and talk a little bit about coming out of that golden era right? We had what's called in WWF the new generation. Do you remember what the new generation was like?
Yeah, that was when Bret Hart tried to carry the industry, right?
Right, Bret Hart, Diesel, the young Shawn Michaels. Don't know that he was. I'm not sure that he was quite there yet, but yeah. So
Like mullet
Bret Hart,
Sean, mullet,
yeah,
mullet Sean.
yeah, Intercontinental title, yeah. So they were struggling. It wasn't like the golden era. Like people were not tuning in anymore. Like they were finding anything better to do, and the same time we had a WCW that was, they were struggling before all this, and this is the part where they really, really were struggling. Like looking at maybe the possibility of, do we sell? Do we go out of business? Like, what do we do? Like, we got to restructure something here. Of course, in comes Eric Bischoff and helps change the game there. But the biggest thing were we had cartoon gimmicks, right? This over the top cartoonish gimmicks in the WWF, even in the WCW, right? Cartoonish, I would say, in WWF, and just ridiculous in WCW. You had like the construction worker and
but there were jobs. Yeah, there were jobs.
Yeah, yeah, and and a lot of that was what was presented on TV. So it was these gimmicks were starting to disappear. So
you want to go 1-on-1 to see how many we can remember?
Let's go for it.
Duke Dumpster Drosy.
You took my first one. Bastion Booger.
Doink the Clown.
I can't believe I went to Bastion Booger first. That's crazy. I'm trying to think of WCW. I might have already lost.
I'll give you one.
That's bad.
That Sub-Zero character.
Glacier.
I
like Glacier. Roy's a good guy.
The Goon. Remember that guy tried to skate
hockey
or wrestle in hockey-looking boots?
Yeah. That makes me think of basically anybody that was in the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17.
Yeah. Would you consider Jimmy Snuka a gimmick? I guess it is a gimmick, but not like really what we're talking about here, huh?
Yeah, not a cartoonish gimmick, I wouldn't say. I mean, you would think, he's like Tarzan essentially, but I don't think he was presented that way. I don't think he was presented in a extreme fashion of, he's swinging from the trees or that kind of thing. I think it was just more of a cultural thing is what he was going for, I believe. But that was before my time. I mean, I know him and I watched him and I've met him and all that kind of thing, but like when it was...
Oh, we're gonna have to do like one of the shorts you've been doing on Jimmy Snuka and his RAPE case.
Yeah,
I don't want to get canceled by YouTube by saying it.
Yeah, we gotta say grape.
Yeah,
but yeah, well, definitely that's a good idea for.
Oh, real quick, as we're talking about Snuka, and I know she's not related to him, but they kind of look. That picture you tweeted about Nia Jax, is that real?
I don't know that the after picture is quite that right now, but I do know that she's working hard and she looks good. She looks great. I mean, lost tons of weight. I don't know how doctored the other one is, but I probably should have looked into it a little bit more before I retweeted it. But I know that she's been losing weight and she's been on a journey. And
someone sent that to me in a group chat. I didn't believe it because I mean that was always my thing with her. She just never tried. She never put any time into her body, and that's her work. And like, she's a lazy wrestler, and she's very pretty. Yeah. But she loses all that weight, and like, holy shit, she's kind of like a chubby J-Lo.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but yeah, I think it.
I didn't mean to go off on that.
All good. So anyway, cartoonish gimmicks were starting to disappear. And right about this time is where we would get, introduce like the Dave Meltzers of the world, right? Internet was like beginning to be a thing. So it wouldn't just be like publications where you had to go to the store and buy a magazine or whatever. So internet dirt sheets, which obviously mean fans become smarter, or at least we think we're getting smarter, right? So anything that's leaked, we know. So you're starting to see fans kind of learn the inner workings of the business a little bit more, right? It was always kind of like, I don't think that's that can't be real, right? Now it's becoming like, oh, okay, now I understand. So looking at the very beginning of that.
I kind of
So
want to get into that just a little bit,
go for
if
it.
that's okay with you.
Yeah.
It's almost like fans are too smart now, and it kills me a little bit. Like I like information right now. I like knowing. I like being a smart mark. I like to know, oh, this wasn't supposed to happen, but oh my god, it happened. And or like, I mean, you have to be a real idiot to know that WWE was recording in Chicago on Monday, and not think as you're watching the show, Punk wasn't going to show up. Like he was on all the advertising, but they were leaking all day. Oh, Punk, it's going to be Punk. It's going to be Punk. It's going to be Punk. Like at a certain point, I just kind of want to see it develop, and I want to see what they're going to do. Like Seth Rollins is the only one of recent that's been able to kind of get us to that. Oh, maybe he's really hurt. Like even to the point where he's lying to his kid's school teacher, like, and still working the gimmick. Like, do you remember Sandman back in the day? He didn't even leave his house.
Yeah.
When he got hurt on ECW, he didn't leave his house for a month. That's commitment to the gimmick, dude. Like that's what we need again.
Very much a different time too. So that, when that would be, I guess pre-social media is really the big thing. So like before people really were connected to their favorite people, like any celebrity, like we can look up right now and find out where they're at or what they've done today at least. So before that, to even like Sandman doing that, like that is ultra commitment. And I don't know that we get that commitment because I don't know that it's part of the professional wrestling culture anymore to really stick to those old school ideals of kayfabe. And the heels want to go out and get signatures and sign shit and get money for doing that as much as the baby faces do. So the old school part of being a heel was you took that cut of, you're not going to be signing a lot of autographs, right? You're not going to be selling some 8x10s to most people, but maybe you'll get a little bit of a bump for being the heel, in your pay, whatever it is. But I think fans being smarter, along with maybe a changing in the industry, has led to, and we've talked about it before, a very new kayfabe, right? A different way of going about can we do this. Seth Rollins' case, we had to completely trick everybody, not just the fans, but even the workers, right?
Yeah.
Which is fun. I love that. And, I hope we get more of that. But it also now we question everything. It went from the smart fans, like, we know this isn't true. So now we question every single thing that comes in, to the fact that we're thinking that Chris Jericho is going to pop out of a coffin at Survivor Series or whatever it was. But you got,
I like what they're doing with Danhausen right now, and when they bring back Enzo and Cass, like,
you see, they advertised for Cass to come back, but Enzo was not on there.
So Enzo's been working at the Performance Center though, and Sean Ross Sapp posted something about it recently. I guess he already signed the deal.
Hopefully.
I was surprised by Baron Corbin. I'll give you that one.
I was too. I didn't like the crowd was a little flat, but then they started chanting "Holy shit!" So it was like, what? I don't know. I think the way it happened, him just popping up on the apron, it just took a minute to register. But
yeah, but I also don't think he's our long-term fans our fans or people who watch our show are going to think I'm retarded or ridiculous for saying what I'm about to say, but I don't think Baron Corbin is at the level of where Enzo and Cass were ascending to, as nice as I can put it. Everyone in the crowd knew the SAWFT. So, like, everybody knew. Like, even when his mic went out and he had the one tattooed on his hand, like, all he had to do was this, and everyone said it for him. Like, that is over. I like Baron Corbin personally, and I like his social media when he cooks and picks cognac and bourbons and cigars and like man's man type of stuff. Like I enjoy that because it's stuff I kind of know, but like he's putting me on game for other stuff that maybe I didn't know. And I like that. Like I like that. So I was happy to see him back, but it's the same with Ryder. Like unless Danhausen brings Zack Ryder back, like Matt Cardona is not really getting over to me. So I know this isn't like we're not talking about present day stuff, but I don't know. I just kind of, yeah.
I get what you're saying. I don't disagree. I mean, I think, I feel like the whole gimmick of Baron Corbin is a very acquired taste, and not too many people have acquired that taste, not in the same way that they were for Enzo and Cass, right? Enzo and Cass were interactive, and they got the fans involved, and they were true baby faces as far as that goes. And Baron Corbin was just connecting with the audience, and I think he got pushed a little bit further maybe than he was ready for. Not in a way like he couldn't handle it, but like I don't know that the crowd had grasped on enough for him to go. And then he became this weird gimmick, the sad, yeah, it was weird. So I think I can see what you're saying for sure. If we hop back into
Sorry,
going back, oh, we're good. Going back before the nWo, the biggest thing was on the WCW side, we have Eric Bischoff taking over, and he was looking for something different. If you ever listen to him on his podcast, he talks about you either need to be equal to or different than, right? And it's a lot easier to do something different than it is to be equal to or better than. So he was looking to, how can I be different? Because I'm going to go into a Monday Night War here with the WWF, which even at that time was still the juggernaut of professional wrestling, right? Nowhere near what it is right now, obviously, but at that time it was still number one. So that was when Eric was looking at, okay, they're taped every other week, so we're live every week, right? That kind of thing. They come on at 9:00. We're gonna make sure that we're on. You know, we're not a commercial, but we're gonna be making sure that when we transition to the second hour of the show, that we do it like before they get to come on. If they're on to 11, we're on to 11:05. Like just little things that gave at least a little bit of an advantage or a chance that they were going to get something out of it. But all that to say
WWE started doing that, and at one point it was like 11:20 and we weren't done yet.
Yeah, I remember all that. Like you never knew how long that overlap was going to happen, and that was part of the excitement of the Attitude Era. And you know, now of course it doesn't matter because Raw's on Netflix. But I like we're talking about this current stuff a lot, but SmackDown, how Triple H they said that they cut in the middle of, I guess, Cody Rhodes coming out. I didn't get the chance to watch it, unfortunately, but the whole like last 8 minutes of the episode was actually after they went off the air on USA. So that's a very old school thing to build that so that you have that anticipation where, you know, back in the day you had to tune in next week to see what happened. You know, now we can tune in 15 minutes and see it online, but it's still that, like, we got to take that extra step to show that we are a dedicated fan. And when you make it something that people want to see, they're going to take that extra step, right? So you're getting engagement, you're getting buy-in, you're getting fans doing exactly what you want. So I think it's cool. Maybe some think it's annoying, but, you know, as long as it doesn't happen all the time, it's a nice little switch up.
Yeah, I like it.
But anyway, going back to our topic, which we're good at avoiding, I think.
I know.
Eric Bischoff.
Hey, I'm back.
Eric Bischoff, you know, he settled for something different in a way that he wanted more realism, right? I already talked about the other ways he wanted something different, but how can he find this realism? And, you know, just more than the gimmicks, maybe. But he came up with this idea. This idea was the nWo, right? We've already talked about that. So he's going to have these people come in from the WWF, and never going to say that, hey, these guys are from the WWF or they're here on behalf of the WWF, but he's going to play into that, right? They actually got sued or got a cease and desist about Scott Hall because he was talking like the Razor Ramon character. He had the same mannerisms and all that kind of stuff, but which was kind of funny because guess what? He was doing that as Diamond Stud the first time he was in WCW. So had WCW not just paid WWF off and been like, okay, whatever, if their legal department was willing to actually fight a battle or go to court for a court case, I don't think they would have lost that one. But, they just paid the money. It was like, screw it. But anyway, take a step back. The first part of that happened once he settled on what he was going to try to do there, first guy to come over was Scott Hall. And again, so we're talking that, and I was watching an old school WCW Saturday Night from 1996, and it was the first time or one of the first times that they started teasing this. Mean Gene Oakland was like, just then call the 1-900 909 9900, and we'll talk about
it's only $2.75 a minute.
Right. It only costs you a month's salary per hour. But it's one of these things where he was saying, like, there's two former WWF champions. Rumor is that they might be heading to WCW, right? Call the hotline and kids get your parents' permission or whatever. So that, that was their way of kind of milking into something here. Anyway, fast forward, we got on Nitro the debut of Scott Hall, and I think it's awesome that they had such a keen eye. And I remember Eric Bischoff talking about it. It was kind of on accident that Scott Hall came through the crowd. I don't want to say accident, but like they were fully ready for him to kind of, make the entrance. And I don't remember if it was Scott Hall or if it was Eric Bischoff or if it was somebody that talked to Eric Bischoff.
Larry Zbyszko.
Larry Zbyszko said, you know what? If he's an outsider, why would he just walk to the ring?
And he said, he's coming from New York. That's how they would do it.
Yeah. So
light bulb went off.
Yep. Which is awesome because that really set the foundation as to us fans thinking.
Let me ask you as a wrestler, if you're in the ring in that match that was happening, and that happened to you, would you be hot as fuck when you got to the back?
Yeah. If it was something, you didn't know about.
I want to ask. I think
you mean like if it was legitimate.
Yeah, like I want to ask any wrestler we ever interview going forward. I want to ask them that exact question, like because I'm really intrigued by the answer.
If it was legitimate and not a part of like the show, yeah.
No, like how it happened, like. You didn't know it was. You don't know what's happening. All you're getting from the referee is leave him alone.
Yeah, I think I would be.
Would you be hot when you got back, or like they didn't smarten you up?
I would say that I would be, just because it's like you're gonna pick my time on TV to do this, but also you're not gonna let me know so that I actually look like a fucking idiot out there, right?
Yeah,
I get paid to play a character, and I can act surprised if I need to act surprised, but I don't want to actually not know what's going on, because then you go from being surprised to you look not scared, but you look dumbfounded instead of being able to play it off as what it's supposed to be. And sometimes that kind of comes off the same, but I think it's that little bit of emotion that doesn't need to be involved as far as the anger. But yeah, I would be. I'm not going to lie about that one. But anyway, Scott Hall comes in through the crowd, and I loved the delivery of, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. Right? Chef's kiss. Perfect.
I mean,
nobody knew.
Couldn't have got it better.
Right. And I think that was actually a line fed to Scott Hall from Eric Bischoff. That was one of the things that was part of his being his baby. This is what he wanted him to say. But perfect execution from Scott Hall. And it started the whole nobody knowing if this was real. right? Again, this is 1996. This is before internet was, readily available to everybody. We didn't have iPhones to tell us, to ask Grok what was going on, right? So we had to just kind of go by our gut feelings, and our gut feeling as fans was this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They should have announced him signing, and they come out, and he should have walked to the ring from the entrance, and he should have had music, and there should have been this pomp and circumstance, but there wasn't. He came in street clothes, interrupted a match. Who does that? Well, that doesn't happen, right? This match, this is real. So again, that was that first shoot invasion angle that I think ever happened, as far as I know, and led to fans.
I was a flipper. Like, I flipped back and forth between WWE and WCW all the time.
I did
there
the
was a
same,
match
but
I
I was
didn't like,
WCW first.
and I was WWE first.
Mhm.
So when I saw him, I was like, "Oh, let me put the control down because I need to know what the fuck's going on." And I stood the whole rest of the night to find out if he came back, if they explained it. Like, oh, my curiosity was piqued. And then the next week, I think I checked in at WWE to see what was going on, and then I went right back to WCW because
you
the
need to know
medium-sized man and the big man, like, he was just cool. Like, even their names are cool. Hall and Nash, like, those are cool wrestling names, dude. Like,
and it's just their shoot names, which is great.
yeah.
But again, so this was the beginning of fans believing the WWF was invading WCW, and the first worked shoot invasion, which is revolutionary because up until this point, you just had your normal, like, good guy versus bad guy, right? If it's you might have a stable that would go against another stable, or turn their back on one of their people, but you never had it presented in a way that, even though it was never rightfully just out and said, that a company, these outsiders, before they were even named so, coming in and trying to take over. And that was something that obviously started a little bit of a revolution with fans. But like you said, so Scott Hall comes in, and week after week for a couple weeks by himself, just teasing what's going on. Like, there's another guy coming. It's not just me, just week after week. And then finally, I can remember it like it was yesterday, probably because I've watched it so many times, especially this last week. But Eric Bischoff and Bobby the Brain Heenan are up there talking to Scott Hall at the announce table where WCW used to have it. And he gives that little point, him being Scott Hall, pronouns pal, gives the point to behind Eric Bischoff and Bobby Heenan, and it's Diesel.
Where's that? Where's that?
Oh, God. So you had Kevin Nash appears, thank God he didn't come back as like the Oz or Vinny Vegas or whatever. But, they decided you got to keep it real. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to use your real name. We're going to, you just be you, turned up to 100 out there or whatever. So,
who famously doesn't know the difference between verbs and adjectives.
Right. Yes. I was gonna say something about that. It's funny.
Oh, but, sorry.
Oh, no. It was fair game, but it was you had these two guys that you had literally just seen in the WWF. Now they're showing up and they're interfering and supposedly, or at least appearing to, just cause chaos, and they're not scheduled to be there, and their chemistry starts like immediately, right? And so I don't know if it's because we just saw them as being two outsiders, no pun intended, or if it was because they actually work that good together, right? That they're kind of the both of them are this cool, laid back, just they're gonna tell you what you need to hear. They're gonna go deliver on whatever they need to deliver. And unfortunately, the only difference is that Kevin Nash never got pulled into that drug and alcohol place that Scott Hall got pulled into, which I think had that not happened, I mean, you can only imagine. Scott Hall, I think, is criminally underrated. But I think the reason that he is because of all the issues that he had. But rest in peace to
Well,
him.
it was. I mean, we interacted a couple times on Twitter. He called me a mark, but he was always cool. He answered every question I ever had. It was a little bit. It hurt watching him go to those independent shows and all drunk.
Yeah.
And try to do stuff, and it was just like these promoters, man. Like, let the man, like, come on, man.
Yeah,
let him have some dignity, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
agreed.
I don't know. That shit just sucked. But
so, and I don't have it. Yeah, agreed. I don't have it in my notes when exactly Kevin Nash came over, but I know there was a couple weeks there of where they on purpose.
There were 2 weeks apart. Okay. From I don't know if it was 2 or 3 weeks that he came over. I think it was 3 weeks he came over, but their contracts were 2 weeks apart on the WWF side.
Okay.
But they grade that line really, really well. Like, you really thought that these dudes came over, like Vince sent these guys over.
Yeah.
And this was what would happen if it did have any, and I don't see it in your notes, so I'm going to talk about it. Stop me if you have a plan on talking about it later. But they were on fucking deal memos. Like, they didn't even have hard contracts signed when they came and disrupted television. They could have legally fucked WCW up and went back to New York like that, and they got them like an extra $1.25 million each and usage of the private jet whenever they want.
Well, and one of the first ones to really hone in on the guaranteed contract money, and so good on them for and they take full credit for changing that. I wasn't there, I don't know, but I know that there's claim that I think it was Rick Rude supposedly had the very first ever guaranteed money, but I can't speak to that right now. I didn't do my research on that part of it, but little things that they did to bring in these guys, like not saying a name. They didn't say that was Razor or Diesel, but they also didn't say that it was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, right? Not for a couple weeks. And I don't know if that changed after the cease and desist or what, but that also fed into, they're not even saying their names. Like, what's going on here, right? Little psychological things like that doesn't seem like a big deal, right?
Oh, JR thought it was a big deal.
Yeah. But they started.
But I mean, he did the whole "hey yo," like he did the
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping all
no. It's exactly the reason that they got the cease and desist. Even though a lot of the stuff that he did was the Diamond Stud stuff that he took from WCW to the WWF and brought back to WCW. So it's a lot. But they start doing things and they start running havoc over everything. Ramming, lawn darting, I guess you would say, Rey Mysterio into the side of a building, which I'll never forget that.
I was going to ask you.
Arn Anderson with a baseball bat. And
I want to get into that in a second, but the throwing Ray into that building has stuck with me for 30 plus years.
Yep.
Because I had never seen anything like that before. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was almost like watching Foley fall off the cage.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember, and I'm sure it happened before
people
that.
People called the police. Like, people legit 100%. Called the police. And we're like, oh my God, there's a gang fight on television. Like, please help these people. And the police and fire department showed up.
Right. And so 100%, like, you're looking at, they're already playing into this invasion thing. And now these guys are backstage and they're beating up the entire roster. I don't know how great that is to bring people in from a different company to beat up your whole roster, but it's not like they're beating up the main guys. But
Nash
just made it look like it was a mugging, like they attacked them from behind, right? They Pearl Harbored them and they come in 100%. And so awesome presentation.
Nash said in one of the interviews about this, was like, it's not a good look that two guys with baseball bats can fend off your entire roster. Like,
but again, it was their B and C level people, other than other than Rey Mysterio and Arn Anderson. I don't remember who else there was there, but it was like Buff Bagwell, I think, at the time or whatever. But
no Macho, no Luger, no.
So all that's happening, and they're, of course, it's not just going to be the two of them, right? They want a third guy. They want somebody that's going to kind of cement this faction as being completely legitimate and not just a tag team. And before we go any further, let's talk about this. I've heard Eric Bischoff say so many times talking about the third man. They didn't know that Hogan was, if he was going to be the third man until he showed up that day. The backup plan of Sting being the guy. I don't know about you, but obviously Sting's like my guy. This would not have worked. You would not have had the dynamic. It would not have made sense for it to be, we're like WCW, we're against WCW. And, I mean, I guess they could have played it in the, like, he's tired of WCW and not getting maybe the respect that he deserves or whatever. But I just don't see a world where Sting, A, is the heel, and B, carries the nWo the way that a Hogan did. And again, I mean, Sting's my guy. I love him to death. That's just not the role that you put Sting in. You can't just put anybody into that role and say that, yes, this would have changed wrestling history the same way that it did here. Because with Hogan, you have the biggest babyface to ever exist in professional wrestling turning heel, becoming a great heel. And he was somebody that was kind of transcended wrestling even before this. So I guess what I'm asking here is, how would you feel about Sting being the backup guy? I personally don't think it would have worked, even though Sting is my guy, but Sting 100% is the guy that should have been where he was. That's on the other side, standing up for WCW, being the face of WCW, and taking on the nWo.
It had to be Hogan.
Right. And yeah, and maybe not even just like Sting. Like, it couldn't have been anybody. Randy Savage wouldn't have worked.
It couldn't have been Macho because Macho was so WCW then. It couldn't have been. I mean, I guess it could have been Sting, and that whole narrative about like, oh, I hate what the WCW is becoming, and like,
but
blah,
it's not
blah, and like the vigilante Sting, I guess. But
yeah,
it was only gonna work like it did with Hogan, and yeah, I mean, he didn't want to do it. Nash has said multiple times, Hogan might be dumb, but he's not stupid. And he saw the money train rolling, and he was like, I can still jump on, brother.
Yeah.
I mean,
once he became convinced of it, which they didn't know again until like the day of, like, they didn't know if he was going to do it until like 5 o'clock, or really technically until he started walking down the ramp.
Luger could have worked if they didn't have brought him in earlier. Like if he had came as a narcissist or whatever, and
if he'd have showed up at Bash at the Beach for the first time.
That could have worked.
But to me, though, like, I think the problem is you could put so many people in there and try to justify it with a storyline, but it would not have been as interesting, again, like we're saying, as a Hogan, who's the antithesis of professional wrestling. He is professional wrestling. The red and yellow, to just turn his back on all that, along with WCW. He's as much New York. He's as much New York as he is anybody else. So that makes sense. You know what it was?
You needed to invoke an emotion and a feeling, and when
your hero turning,
and so having Hogan eat your prayers, say your eat your vitamins, say your prayers, doing all that, like the red and yellow, and then he comes out in black and white, like there was a feeling you had to feel that. You had to feel like either fuck yeah or anger. Like, and you had that one granny that was punching at him. Like, that was legit emotion. And you have to pull that. And Hogan had so much love, equity with the fans. He could have rode off into the sunset and never did this and been okay. Still would have been the immortal Hulk Hogan. Like, he said a couple times to Bischoff, until you walk a day in my red and yellow boots, you'll never know what it's like to be the Hulkster. Like, I believe that's 100% true. Like, we don't know what weight that actually carries on having to be Hulk Hogan. Like, and it's evoking that, the why, brother, why? And because he had to. When Cena did it to Cody, it almost reached that, and then The Rock goes away. We needed The Rock to be a part of that, because Cena alone, I didn't buy it. But if Rock and him were doing something, and then they could have went a number of different ways. The Cena heel turn was fun for about 20 minutes, and then it just sucked.
Yeah, and I even said that in the episode. Like, it was one that, the execution of it, chef's kiss. But after the initial turn and the Raw, I was over it.
And then and then with Hall and Nash, like, they were so much younger than Hogan. Like, their ideas were fresh and new, and like, you didn't have to cut a promo back then. It was like, brother, and let me tell you something, brother, and what you gonna do, brother? Like, oh man, it's cool. Like, even Nash says, like, I was 45 years old wearing the Tupac bandana backwards, like, wearing overalls with one undone, and like, we were West Coast rap.
Yeah.
And most of the country didn't know it yet. And we just adopted that as our style. Like, I think that's fucking cool. Like, and then, but Hogan still wore the spandex and the fucking boots. Like, he was still the brother. He was still a Hulkster, brother. It was just bad guy Hulkster. But like, it was just something. Yeah, it was something new we hadn't seen. And like, I still think there was meat on the bone. But they I mean, you and I could have been NWO. Everybody was fucking in NWO at one point.
I think I was. I'm pretty sure I was.
Yeah, at least. I mean, it's so funny. I was a hardcore wrestling fan my entire life. And like, dudes in high school, I went to all boys high school. We had cliques, right?
Yeah.
One day to the next, it was like, oh, we're NWO black and white, brother. And everyone's giving each other the fucking the Turkish wolf. And it's like, I came to school like, what? How do you guys know this? Because it was taboo to talk wrestling. Nobody wanted to talk wrestling with me at school.
Until this time.
And I was a jock, but I watched wrestling, and it was just like, oh, hell yeah, brother! Did you see Mr. Perfect? Who? Did you see? Oh, did you see the match? Oh, you're only into the gang mentality thing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to jump too far ahead, but then we had like Wolfpack NWO, like. We had dudes break off.
Yeah, 2000 and
but at my high school we had that. Like, oh, you're either Wolfpack or you're Hollywood. Which one are you? Like, I don't know. I like both. This is stupid.
You got to.
Yeah, so, and then everyone's doing. I got suspended from school twice for telling an administrator and a priest to suck it.
That'll happen.
At that point, I didn't know what I was saying.
It's what you saw on TV. Right?
I wasn't getting. I mean, I apologize for my next statement, but I wasn't getting my dick sucked at 13.
Right.
I didn't know what suck it meant. I just my crotch, that's cool. X-Pac does it. Triple H does it. Shawn Michaels, oh, you didn't know? Like, I was like,
right.
And but of course. If someone did that to me today, I'd be like, I'm gonna fuck you up, little kid. Like, so
especially it was something that the adults never seen. Like, they didn't know what was going on, and so they see that, and you're like, what the fuck did you just say to me?
Yeah, grandma's mom. Yeah, he's in the school office again, and he told Mr. Comfort to suck it.
Come get this little shit.
Yeah, and my mom's like, he did what? What? You told him to do what? How do you know what that is? And I was like,
right.
So for like 2 weeks, she didn't let me watch wrestling, but I still watched it, but I didn't watch it.
You got back to it.
I have trauma.
We're at Bash at the Beach, 1996, and of course we talked about the mystery third man, which we all know is no mystery anymore. It was Hulk Hogan. So you had Hall and Nash who came in. They're supposedly these guys from the outside that are invading the WCW, but on Team WCW, we had three men that kind of, it was, I don't want to say it was a weird pairing, but you had Sting, who is the franchise of WCW, right? Long been entitled of, or long been known as the franchise of WCW. This was the late 80s, the early 90s. He was the one guy that never left, right? He never saw a greener pasture anywhere else. He wanted to stay there and be loyal. And I think that's why he was the obvious choice to defend the WCW against the outsiders, at least judging off the way that they went. I mean, for him to be the backup guy, we already said, you know, possibilities of how that could have went, but I wouldn't have bought it. Not the same. His loyalty to WCW is kind of what made fans believe in him that much more, right?
Yeah.
And later they had the fake Sting, which was fucking stupid, but you know, at the time it was what it was. But I watch it now and I'm like, that's a little cringy. But
my favorite was, I watched it the other day when Sting had the Sting mask on.
Yeah, and he was fake.
Takes it off, and he has another Sting mask on.
It's funny.
I thought that was fucking hilarious.
So, and this is what led to Crow Sting, right? It was an idea spurred on by Scott Hall, but it's also now here he is defending WCW. These outsiders come in and they start taking over the company, and then he starts getting blamed because of the fake Sting. He's now the guy that's, you know, he's going to be joining the nWo, and people start questioning him, and he's like, I've been nothing but loyal to this place. So I'm going to step back and I'm going to let you guys see what happens, you know. And he disappears for a while, and then he comes back and he doesn't talk for like a year until he says, Hogan, you're a dead man. Right. And that's paraphrasing it, but it was like one sentence. He said something to JJ Dillon, and he said something to Hulk Hogan. And that was like the biggest thing in wrestling, right? For that week or that month or whatever it was, the fact that Sting talked, right? So that was that build. But and it's such an iconic character that's what he is now, right? He's still kind of that character.
Do you think that was hard for him to not cut a promo and just kind of show up in the rafters and like not work on his craft for an entire year?
In a way, yeah. I mean, easy paydays, right? But you know, I think if he had the foresight of like, this is what we're working towards, and this is what's going to happen. I mean, of course, the next time he's going to talk on a microphone a year later, like I feel like the nerves are going to be that much more, because it's like, I haven't done this for so long, right? It's exactly, I guess, to play into what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it would probably be a little bit of a mind fuck whenever you had to actually get back on the mic and do what you needed to do. But I guess he had done it for so long. Like, I don't know that he would have sweated it, but it would definitely make you maybe a little bit more nervous than usual. But again, with Sting, Hulk Hogan was obviously synonymous with WWF, even though he was at the WCW by this time for 2 years. But if Hogan was the WWF guy, Sting was the WCW guy. And so, again, that's why he's on this team, and it's why
in fantasy booking, you know who would have worked? Ric Flair.
I've thought about that before.
I've never flushed it out. This is the first time I've ever thought about that. But I think
I wouldn't have bought that, just because he was a WCW guy to me, right? NWA guy.
But he
had been in the WWF. I know he was in the WWF for a cup of coffee, but that was a WCW guy going to the WWF. That was an NWA guy going to the WWF.
Yeah,
and I think it would have had to been the same storyline as if Sting would have been the guy, right? It's, I don't like where this company's going. You know, I've bled and sweat and cried for this place. I've shed, you know, a tear in my eye, but for the WCW.
But didn't they try to bury Ric Flair in the desert at some point? Like, wasn't that
WCW tried to get rid of Ric Flair pretty much, you know, and which is crazy to me. I mean, what they could have probably had. I mean, obviously he was one of the best wrestlers ever, but they could have made him, I think, even bigger, instead of trying to say that he's too old and writing him off, right? I mean,
yeah,
but
that was a Vince Russo thing, huh?
Russo, even Bischoff. Bischoff even didn't really see the value in Ric Flair that he later saw, right? So I think the most respect that Ric Flair had in wrestling was the NWA days, but so we had Sting, we had Lex Luger, who was kind of presented as the wild card, right? Returned in 1995. The first episode of Nitro made his surprise return to the WCW from the WWF. So there was real life friendships with Hogan and the Outsiders, and so that would be something where you're like, okay, when's he turning, right? When's he going to be the next guy? When's he going to be number 4? And so you saw that play out on TV where Luger was kind of the guy that everybody questioned, right? But again, he was popular as the WCW star, and he was just the guy that was there to stand up against them. And the other guy, Randy Savage.
I just don't understand. I don't understand Luger's appeal. Like he didn't have a lot of charisma. I don't know.
It was I think of the look, and he was pushed in the WWF, and he got reactions. I've been watching stuff back, and like I'm on your camp there. Like I don't see personally what drew people to him other than he was just a body, right? It was nothing special as far as work rate or anything like that to me personally. But yeah, I'm not sure. But then we have the emotional leader, which is Randy Savage, right? Hey, he's had an intense history with Hulk Hogan. He's one of WCW's biggest baby faces at this time. And he'd already shown relentless determination to stop the Outsiders because of what they were doing, right? He's pro WCW, and he's going to get rid of these guys that are coming in. So I think that his history with Hogan even went into later when Randy Savage joined the NWO, that made it even more impactful because it was something that fans didn't really think was going to happen. But now Randy Savage is aligned with Hulk Hogan again. But then, of course, out of all this, we had Sting, Luger, Savage. Let's take a minute and talk about Hulk Hogan. We've already talked about him turning and it being like the biggest thing in wrestling, and even all these years later. But from what I've looked at, the fans expected Sting, Luger, even Bret Hart to kind of be revealed as maybe the third guy or the next guy. So there was rumblings that it could have been Sting or Luger, so that wouldn't have been completely out of the blue. The anticipation of the match was something that, because it was still, like we've been saying, that people still thought that this was real. How are they going to sanction a match with the WWF guys? So there you got that chunk of the crowd that really thinks that this is something that's unprecedented, right? Yeah. Hogan's music hits, and all I can remember is Bobby the Brain Heenan saying, "But what side's he on?" Right? And Tony Schiavone is like, "What do you mean, whose side's he on?" Right? Hulk Hogan's here to save the day, and I think that part of me feels like, Daddy! Yeah, part of me feels like, why is Heenan doing this? But watching it back is like part of the genius of it. I think it starts that planting that seed of doubt pretty much right away, because we're in a time now in WCW where you can't trust anybody, not even the guy. And he comes out and he drops the leg, and turns out, guess what? He was the guy he's the one that did it. Dropped the leg on Randy Savage, and the fans went bananas in a bad way, right? Good way for a heel, but it was like silence, then confusion, and then they just threw shit into the ring. I mean, soda.
Mean Gene, you better tell these people to stop throwing crap or something like that. Like, I'm not, like, I don't know. It was something weird.
New World Organization of Professional Wrestling. But
that wasn't the same one where Scott Hall got nailed with the soda and he just kind of.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
It
he
was.
seemed to get hit, and he just no, that was on the Thunder, I think, or Nitro, the one you're
Yeah,
thinking
I think
about.
it was another one
But
where he goes.
I do think they got hit by it though. Yeah,
He gets hit and he just kept. I mean, that's a pro, dude. He didn't even react. I mean, he reacted by combing his hair, but he kept going with his promo. Hey, yo.
yep, just kept going. Yeah, that was a different one. But you know, the stuff that made Hogan the perfect third man, we talked about already. Like he spent over a decade as the ultimate good guy in professional wrestling. He carried the other company, the WWF, through the 1980s. He just openly just say your prayers, eat your vitamins. It was the ultimate good guy, making kids like look up to him and trying to point them down the right path. And WCW, if you remember, they had already started like experimenting with a darker version of Hogan. Do you remember when the Dungeon of Doom was he was going against them, and I think it was when the Giant first came in, Big Show, and
Kevin Sullivan too, right?
Yeah. And Hogan was wearing actually what he wore like the night after he turned, like the all black, right? Yeah. So that wasn't the first time after he turned, wasn't the first time that we've seen Hogan in black. So they had already started kind of experimenting, like, what's this going to be like, or what can we do other than the red and yellow shtick that's starting to grow a little stale, right? And I think they just wanted to be ahead of the curve. I don't think that it was completely disappearing, right? Like he still got cheered. There's still the kids loved him, that kind of thing. But it was like they could see the writing on the wall that people were starting to get tired of this and trying to figure out what they could do. And the genius of Eric Bischoff ended up completely changing professional wrestling. Whether that was genius or luck, I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that. But I mean, I'm a Bischoff guy. I like Bischoff, but he definitely made the right call, I would say, on that one. But again, I mean, it was a gamble because what if he turned Hogan and people didn't buy it?
It didn't work. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why Hogan hesitated, right? He was kind of concerned, like, what's going to happen to merchandise sales? Like you said, it's about the money, the fan backlash, as far as, are they going to keep watching? We don't know. But Eric Bischoff firmly believed that the heel turn was the only way to keep WCW's momentum against WWF. And he was right. The gamble paid off, right? So not only did it keep the momentum, but it made them grow and grow and grow until eventually they were beating the WWF. I think almost solely because of this night, because of Hogan deciding that he was going to go ahead and turn and become the third guy. And we look at Hogan's promo, and you fans can stick it, right? Before that, who would have ever thought they would have heard Hulk Hogan say that, right? It called the fans garbage. He declared that the New World Organization of Professional Wrestling, brother. And again, so that's other thing I think is cool. So it's a fresh idea, and it's kind of come together as in real time, because whether that was just a Freudian slip or that was what they were talking about and he said it and they're like, that sounded stupid. You don't know, whatever. But of course it was the New World Order. And
well, apparently when they did those, they bought airtime and they were doing those skits. Hall or Nash said, man, those skits, those promos were like 30 minutes long. He's like, we had to have the guy who said, I forget his name, but the guy who goes, these messages are brought to you by the nWo. That guy was actually a producer on this segment and the editor, and he edited him and cut him up to make them into 30-second to minute promos. He's like, but Hogan went on and cut a 80s promo for 30 minutes. And it was like, brother, and he's posing and brother. And Hall and Nash are looking at each other like, what the fuck are we doing? But the editor had like gave him a wink and was like, don't worry, dude, I got this. And he cut it up and they look genuinely perfect. Like the music was perfect, the whole nWo was perfect, the gimmick was perfect, the simple black and white shirts were perfect. Like no WCW branding on them. The fact that they legit went out and sold them for $20 cash in the parking lot was just perfect. Like, there are not many things they didn't hit a home run with the NWO.
Right, which is why we continue to talk about it even today. And I'm sorry, I'm not like ignoring you here. I'm trying to find. I was going to try to play I saw it the other day. It's an NWO like soundboard website where you can play like either the Wolfpack song or like Eric Bischoff's generic version or the NWO theme, and you can put the too sweet or the new order. You can put that anywhere you want. And so. But I couldn't find it, of course. It just looked like I was ignoring you. So that was just I wasn't.
You can have our new editor add that in post.
There we go. I get that to go. So just to kind of sum up the Bash at the Beach '96 before we move on to more of what the NWO did. So 30-year anniversary was July 7th. We had the idea of doing it last week, but of course, we had to delay for obvious reasons. No, it is what it is. We had to make sure you got back to health, and I wasn't gonna do it without you because this was your idea. So I do like that. It's being the WCW guy, for some reason I didn't think of it. But
that's why we're collaborative.
Right. We are the society.
Teamwork. Yes.
Right. As far as that night goes, Sting was the heart of WCW, right? That's what he represented. Luger represented the uncertainty, like we said. He had ties to both sides. Savage was loyalty, right? Kind of the heart, the emotional leader. And then Hogan represented kind of the impossible, something that the fans never expected was going to happen. So that's kind of the role they all played in. And of course, we know Hogan. We know Hall and Nash were the ones coming in and trying to cause this whole uproar, right? They were the outsiders, as they were named. But I think this goes down as one of wrestling's greatest moments. Obviously, it was one that kind of started a new boom in professional wrestling, and to me, one of the greatest eras. But another kind of one of those things, of course, anytime something that kind of swings the pendulum like this, or something that really changes the game, there's unintended side effects, right? Things that happen that probably wasn't part of the plan, but the whole cause and effect thing. If you remember way back before the NWO, back when we were like in the single digits of age, it used to be being the heel was like you were hated, right? You got heat. People wanted to stab you. And not to say that doesn't happen now or it hasn't happened since, but there's a new dynamic that to me came along from the NWO because of the NWO, because of that coolness that Hall and Nash had and the later Hollywood Hogan kind of grew into when he really became his own as a heel, right? I think Hollywood Hogan was one of the best heels in wrestling.
Well, when you had the
black
paint.
Face. So what I'm saying there is that's when fans started to cheer the bad guys, right? They were the cool guys. I want an NWO shirt. Like this is my thing. This is my jam. Like you had, even though they were the bad guys, you had every week. If you go back and you watch starting from mid to late '96, I guess, all the way up through even really to the end of WCW, like you saw a lot of NWO shirts no matter where you went, right? You still see NWO shirts are still being sold today, right? Yep. I was in Clearwater a couple weeks ago and even at Hogan's shop, which of course is Hogan's shop, but like half of it was like NWO stuff. And so, then it's like their bestseller place or whatever. It was NWO stuff, right? So this was the birth of the cool heel. So me, and I don't know if it's because of this, and I lived through this as being a 6-year-old, right? I was 5 turning 6 when this actually happened. So a lot of this is kind of me going back and seeing this. I did live through it. I remember it as a kid, but I played through it a couple of times. But I've always liked the heel. And so I don't know if it's because of this and them just being the cool guys, but I was never a Hogan guy. Hollywood Hogan, sure. But Ric Flair when he's, you know, bad guy. Triple H being the bad guy. Like, that's always been what appealed to me for whatever reason. And even being in wrestling, I love being the bad guy. Like, I did that for 98% of my career. So to be the bad guy changed to now you're the cool guy that just is an asshole. I guess the anti-hero. Hogan, you know, black and white shirts, and you had a new person like every week, right? In the beginning, they were doing like these interviews in the ring, like the Nasty Boys would come out and they wanted to join. And I think the first one actually was, remember Big Bubba Rogers? It was the Big Boss Man. They came out, and I don't remember if he wanted in or if they, like, I think they just came into the match, interrupted the match, and shook his hand and invited him in because another guy from WWF, right? He was a member for about 13 seconds, and then they turned around and jumped him because Hogan was like,
never mind.
Right? Hogan was like, get him. Again, just to prove the point that they're kind of the badasses. They do what they want. They're not loyal to anybody. They're only there for themselves and for the money, and to be number one, to have the WCW title, to have the WCW tag team titles, and make it the nWo title. So, yeah. But anyway, they turned heel, and, you know, Hogan's worried about the merchandise, like you said. Probably, I don't have any confirmation of that, unless you've heard him actually say that. I haven't heard him say that, but needless to say, there wasn't a worry that needed to be had because the merchandise exploded. Everything nWo, probably more so than what like the red and yellow was at that time. When you think?
Yeah, I think the Hulk Hogan or the Hulkamania was not dying, but I think it was teetering a little bit. Not as sick. Exciting. Yeah.
It had COVID. It was sick.
Yeah, got sick. Had exploding diarrhea.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hershey squirts. Hershey squirts. So we go from that. So the birth of the nWo, the birth of the Cool Hill as a result, springboard that straight into the Monday Night Wars. Because at the same time as nWo was coming in, on the other side you had business kind of picking up for the WWF, right? You had the Attitude Era coming in. Basically, you get The Rock, Stone Cold, DX, all these at the same time. So, you know, it's an influx of just people that are, you know, on this side you have Hogan and Nash and Sting. On this side you have the people that are proving themselves, right? It's kind of like WCW always got the rap of having the old guys, right? And now WWF was over here having to make new guys. And so, anyway, for a long time, WCW ended up winning the war 83 straight weeks, right? That's why Eric Bischoff has his 83 weeks podcast. Ratings were crazy. Like, if you even to lose meant that you were drawing 5-6 million people, like you were a 5.6 or whatever. So, like, and I probably couldn't quote any actual numbers, but during this time was actually when like the highest rated segment ever in the history of wrestling happened, and I believe it was Austin versus Undertaker. It was like in 1998-ish, but it drew like a 7.8 or something like that on the Nielsen ratings, like unheard of. And to have everybody split between the two companies and still be getting records, like that's kind of crazy. And now, you know, that'll never happen again because of some people watch it on TV, some people stream it. Since it's available anytime, you don't have to watch it live, right? So, you know, it's never going to be that again. Even if we have another Monday Night War or Thursday Night War or Friday, whatever day it'd have to be now, you know, it's never gonna be the same. So the ratings were exploded. WWF was legitimately in a panic in the beginning of this before they got like the Stone Colds and the Rocks. You know, they were looking at, I think at one point, Vince McMahon kind of like was on the verge of selling everything. Like, and that really for them came out of the steroid scandal, right? So before they could rebound from all that, it was a kind of a scary time. Like, they were pinching pennies there. which just made Eric Bischoff's confidence grow even more, right? But this basically was the one thing that if WWF were to ever die, this was probably the thing that was closest to giving it that death wound, the nWo. We see WWF as being untouchable, and I think right now WWE is completely untouchable. It's not going to go away unless they decide that they're closing shop, right? So this was probably the closest thing to WWF not existing as we ever got or ever will get. As far as the business impact, I mean, do you have anything to add to the Monday Night Wars part?
No, I think you nailed it pretty well. I feel like we kind of covered it a little bit earlier also. Like,
yeah, but I was kind of trying to skim through it real quick.
Yeah, the 83 weeks, like, you don't really want to skim through that too much because out of respect for all the jobs and people and all that other bullshit that went on, like, it wasn't an easy time for anybody. I mean, right. Wrestlers, and people in the business, but man, that was good television.
Agreed.
That was good television. And then it forced WWE to go live. Huh?
That's why I go back and watch it all the time.
Yeah, because it forced everybody to step their game up, and they meaning WWE took it as like, oh, you're coming for the king, you better not miss.
Yep.
And if the higher the tides, the higher the boats, or some shit like that, like, it raises everybody else's game. So like, you had guys go out there and try to put on 5-star matches all the time. Like, you have guys that are trying shit like you didn't know, like, the New Age Outlaws were more over than most people, and that was a combination of Mr. Ass and Road Dogg, who were by all accounts secondary, third type stars. They weren't household names. They weren't. I wouldn't even call them good wrestlers. They were just
good
worked.
Personalities.
Good timing. Yeah.
Yep. So what's the nWo? Sorry. You hit that right on hit the nail on the head. The business impact of the nWo, I don't think can be argued. Like we've said before, like the shirts, right? So millions of shirts were sold. Kind of started the whole revolution of merchandise because they made whatever they could make and they put the nWo logo on it, right? So I think that was really the start. WCW never really had a great merchandise department. WWF was kind of the one to go to for merchandise and that kind of thing, but this kind of kick-started everything, and I think kicked the butt of WCW and making sure that they got something going. But anyway, everything had nWo on it. Even stuff they didn't sell that had WCW on it, they sold with nWo on it. Mainstream attention with like Dennis Rodman and being on Leno and that kind of thing, that would have never happened without the nWo and getting the millions of fans that were watching because of it, which led to, of course, celebrity appearances, attendance records as far as WCW goes happened during this time, right, during this boom time. Buy rates for the pay-per-views, right? Before this, it was like Bash at the Beach 94, which was Hogan and Ric Flair, right? At that point, that was the biggest buy rate. But then I think you go to like, I think, unless I'm completely out of the park here, but I think Starrcade 97 was what ended up being the most bought. I might be wrong there, but I think it's one of the top. Wow. So, but
that'd be a trivia question I'd never answer correctly.
Yeah, I think that would, I don't know. Because I could think
it's just a lot of here, I think as a culture back then, like the gang culture was kind of like everyone wanted, I don't know, it was just, do you remember them spray painting guys on the back with nWo on them? Like,
yeah.
Like what an asshole thing to do. Like, and it's so simple, but like,
and it's something everybody wanted to see. Like they're the bad guy. You're supposed to hate him for doing it. Like, be like, fuck you. But you're like, that's cool. Like,
hell yeah. I still do it. I'll send you a picture. I still do it when I clean my windows. I write WO on the back of my car.
When like the car windows are really dusty or whatever, nWo.
Oh yeah, that too.
Some people draw like penises or SWAT stickers,
Yeah.
but you know, I draw nWo because I'm the cool kid.
For life.
Exactly. It was. So I looked it up. WCW pay-per-view with the most buys was the 1997 edition of Starrcade. It got to the 700,000 mark, which at that point was crazy, right? Not too many. All belongs to
What was the
WWE.
main?
That was Sting and Hogan. That was the infamous Sting wasn't tan enough or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He came in kind of out of it.
Yeah. So. Oh, I'm gonna go back and watch that tonight if I can find it.
And then we had Halloween Havoc 98, Bash at the Beach 96, of course, because that's kind of where all this started. So, you know, and then Bash at the Beach 94 comes on down the road. But point being, most of the highest buy rates and most popular WCW pay-per-views happened during this era because of the storyline that was going on, because you had the nWo and you had to know what was going on and you had to watch it. They actually had their own pay-per-view. Do you remember that? nWo sold out.
Yep.
I want to go back and watch that again.
Empty arena matches.
Did they have an empty arena match?
Yeah.
I know.
They rented out a they did it again on the Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah, I only remember that with Rock and Mankind.
No, they did it. nWo did it also, and then someone will check me on it that follows us on our show. But they also did. I remember it I want to say it was like Big Show versus or the Giant versus somebody. DiBiase was still around. He was on the ringside. And I think it was a jobber. It wasn't like it was a squash match, but it was an empty arena because they were trying to build up we buy our time on commercials because they were running commercials on like Thunder and the Saturday show.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, it was part of their gimmick. Like, how are we gonna book a show? How are we gonna book a match when we don't work for you guys? And so that's why they did the empty arena match.
It was the thing. 1981, the Memphis territory kind of was the first ones to do it, according to this. Then we go on down through. Right here it is. Gimmick of an empty arena match was stored in mothballs for several years and reemerged in 1996 for WCW. But after the nWo formed, and they used the empty arena to have a series of matches against enhancement talent. Filmed in black.
I know my shit.
Filmed in black and white and had canned audience reactions for nWo. And so
you know why?
Funny because then 3 years later is when halftime heat happened.
Because when you're nWo for life.
That's cool. That's something I had even forgotten. See, everybody learns everybody learns because of the Cheap Pop Society. So that's awesome.
Let's go. And no cheap pop because there's no audience.
Right. When you have two people that their whole life has been professional wrestling like us. So between the two of us, we've probably forgotten more wrestling than most people will ever know. So that's
100%.
It's kind of cool.
And not tooting our horns because
that makes it cool, right?
Yeah. Right, brother. Right.
So once nWo got started, before it really snowballed into more than 30 people, you had the first major additions. And if you look at your notes, I got a couple of them on there. So like we had Six or X-Pac, right? He was one of the first ones to come over to join. Ted DiBiase, the Giant, of course, was a big deal, especially because him and Hogan had their beef from like 95 to probably till about the time he joined. Bagwell, Hennig, Scott Steiner joined when the Steiner brothers broke up. Randy Savage eventually joined. Bret Hart eventually joined. Like so many people that, like you said, pretty much everybody on the roster either wanted to be in the NWO or they were in the NWO or they, you know, lost TV time because of the NWO, like whatever it was. Like, I remember when they came out, and I mean, they filled the ring. Like, it was crazy. If you go back and you watch some of that, like, it's no wonder that it kind of flew off the rails in a way, that there wasn't any real closure because other than, you know, Bischoff leaving and kind of getting burnt out, like, what do you do with that? You know,
and you needed to create other entities that go against them. Like,
right.
I mean, you had the filthy animals.
You had Sting on the other side, and that was it.
I mean, filthy animals were
hooty hoo. So you had, to me, it became ridiculous. I've heard Eric Bischoff talk about the whole original concept was like NWO would have Nitro and WCW would have Thunder, or vice versa. So if that was the intent behind it and it just never got to that, like I don't know why they never pulled the trigger, but I could see maybe that's why there was so many people. But if you have them as being a unit, right? The NWO was a unit. How do you then start like?
Yeah, who's watching?
Now they're a show, right? And you know, you could start having like tension amongst the ranks or whatever, I guess. But I don't know.
But who's watching? Who's watching Thunder if there's no NWO? Like,
right. So I think it just became ridiculous in my mind. But how do you feel about the 30 people?
I think it was just ridiculous. I'm not totally on board where it just needed to be the three of them, because you needed to branch out a little bit and make other stars. I'm cool with 6 because he was part of the group. He's part of the clique. Even Kurt Hennig was pretty cool as an NWO member. And then you start getting into like the Savages and Bret Hart and DiBiase, and it's like, okay, I see the connection because of WWE. Like, I get that. But then, Scott Steiner, like Buff Bagwell, I don't know. I'll never forget the Judy Bagwell.
I think Scott Steiner's that might have been. Sorry. Oh, the Buff Bagwell's mom on a pole. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Judy Bagwell on a pole match.
I don't. I mean, maybe I'm just jaded, but there's just certain guys belong in certain things and certain guys don't. And it's okay to tell them no, you know?
I think they could have reeled it in a lot more. And, you know, even if they had 10 guys, like, you know, cycle through
that
to get to the point where
that should have been the max.
Right. Get to the point where you're literally filling up the ring and they got to stand like outside the ring and you have enough in the NWO that it could be their own roster, unless that's what you're actually planning on doing. Like, I think that's where it got kind of crazy where, you know, people were going and they were literally just on TV because they were in the NWO. You know,
I mean, outside of a WrestleMania match, entrances shouldn't take 10 minutes.
And by the time everybody coming in.
Yeah, and then they looped the Jimi Hendrix song like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, all right. And then you can only see Hogan do this so many times until all 54 members of the NWO come out. Like, Miss Elizabeth was NWO. What the fuck? What are we doing?
So we got the NWO, millions of people in it, whatever it is. So no real closure, but I think it, and we already talked a little bit about this, but it gave birth to, I think, wrestling's greatest slow burn angle.
Which is?
I was saying, if you remembered. To me, it's Sting, the transformation into the Crow character, right? You had him come out and basically tell the crowd to stick it, and now he disappears for a while. He starts to grow out his hair. He comes back. The very first ever Crow Sting looks creepy, like not well done, but you know, the beginning of the transformation. But again, silence. He was waiting in the rafters. Sometimes he had the Crow with him. That was cool. The black trench coat, baseball bat, like completely could not have been any different than what Sting was, right? Surfer Sting was bright colors, blonde hair, you know, yelling and talking and doing everything that like a if you build a professional wrestler, he would do. Then he becomes the complete opposite of that. So it worked because of that. It worked because it was the vigilante of the WCW. He was the guy that came in and stood up for what was right, even though what NWO was doing was getting over with the crowd, and they loved it. They loved it even more when Sting would come out and stand up for the WCW and for the fans. You know, and DDP kind of got the same thing. I think kind of going as well.
DDP was one of the only ones that was in NWO.
Right, him and Sting are like the two that I can think of that were top guys that never actually joined the NWO. And during that,
Sting because Sting was red and black.
Yeah. But as far as like the original NWO, then we fast forward. Probably one of the biggest faces of WCW, which hurts to even say, but just popularity wise, Goldberg, right? You had the Georgia Dome. If you don't remember what happened in the Georgia Dome, this was Goldberg versus Hogan for the WCW title. You had Spear, Jackhammer. Hollywood Hogan drops the world title on Monday night to Goldberg in Goldberg's home city. Huge crowd though. It was like 40-some thousand people for a WCW Nitro that they just gave this away. Gave this away on free TV, but probably one of WCW's loudest reactions because finally the title gets pulled away from Hollywood Hogan and they give it to this guy of Goldberg that's a phenomenon basically, right? He's clicked. People love the intensity. He's built as the complete badass, and WCW pulled the trigger on him, right? And he was still undefeated at the time. He had the United States title at the time. So like it was just, who's going to stop this guy? And, he ran roughshod through Hogan, and that was kind of what started the end of the party, I think, because then you started getting the tension amongst the ranks of the NWO. Fast forward a little bit, you had the finger poke of doom, which involved Hogan and Nash, Goldberg getting arrested, and that's where people started switching from watching the NWO and WCW, switching over to the WWF. And Stone Cold and The Rock and Degeneration X, and a lot of what they had seen in the WCW over the last couple of years pushed even higher, right? Pushed even further because they were allowed to get away with more. They got away with more language, away with more suggestive stuff because USA Network was a different company than what TNT was. And I think that's part of a little bit that hurt WCW, not necessarily the NWO part of it, but the standards and practices and the company being owned by a TV company that didn't want you to be a product on their TV. And when they got rid of Ted Turner, right, that was obviously the end of WCW for all intents and purposes.
The nail in the proverbial coffin.
Right. And, we talk about this, like the people switching to WWF and kind of WCW going downhill. Even at the end, they had ratings that far surpassed even what WWE gets today. The WCW did.
Oh yeah. Oh, there was
again part of that's because of the streaming services and all that kind of stuff. But like they weren't
even so. Everybody, nobody wanted to admit they watch wrestling, but everybody fucking watched wrestling.
Yep.
Everybody knew who Stone Cold Steve Austin was. Everyone knew who Hulk Hogan was, and everyone maybe they didn't know who Shawn Michaels and Triple H were, but they definitely knew the X.
Yeah.
And it was surprising how that was the current temperature of the country was whatever was happening on Monday nights.
So then we fast forward to kind of the death of the NWO. It just became diluted. Too many people, too many different versions. You had the NWO Wolfpack. You had NWO 2000. I mean, it was just one of those things where too much of it. It got shoved down your throat, and people started growing tired of it. Too much of anything is not a good thing. And I loved the NWO Wolfpack. I liked Red and Black together more as a kid, so that was part of my reasoning. I like their theme song even more. If I look back at it now, though, you can't beat the original NWO theme song. Like it's great. I love the Wolfpack song too, but You know, I think what got me too, so along with the color schemes, the theme music, they also had Sting join them, right? Again, I was the biggest Sting mark ever to exist. So that's
Well, you don't go to you you don't go to festivals dressed as Sting, my friend.
that's fair. I can't I guess I can't take that title.
Not,
We had
not
some
like
we had a guy on
British
here that
lady.
could, yeah, I think one of the guys we had on here maybe could have been in the conversation.
Maybe a United States mark.
There we go. I know the other guy I believe is from States. So, but anyway, they, NWO essentially dies without having any kind of real ending, real closure, for many different reasons. And then you have WWE come in and buy WCW. And ironically enough, the faction that nearly killed the WWF ends up being owned by the WWF, right?
Didn't he run it? I'm going to kill my own creation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So he had this storyline to bring them in because it was after the invasion angle, right? Because their contracts and whatever.
Yeah.
But so it was going into No Way Out 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Going into that, he's saying like he being Vince, pronouns pal.
Poison.
Yeah,
Poison.
I'm gonna kill my own creation, right?
Yeah.
Before anybody else can. So he brings in the NWO. They have Hogan, Hall, and Nash, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was surreal. I remember with No Way Out had that big like the warning sign, like the yellow traffic sign, and the big rigs in the back, and here out come Hogan, Hall, and Nash, and like
I was just watching it.
when you have so many things like there's only so many times you can watch something and be like, that's something I never thought was going to happen. CM Punk coming back to the WWE, that's something I never thought was going to happen. CM Punk coming back to wrestling in general, right? So there's one example with one guy who's his interview with Stephanie McMahon's on my TV in the background there, so that's why it popped up. But so
I haven't watched it yet.
I'd recommend it. I'm an hour and 12 in, still got about an hour left. But where are they going with that?
Can I cut you real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to say how appreciative and grateful I am that we have this podcast and we have a space for you and I to just shoot the shit and talk wrestling. And it's whether anybody listens to us, if you do, thank you. We love you. We really do this for other people. But like, I'm so happy that I had somewhere to come back to and be able to be like, you're my boy, man. Like, I love talking with you and having these fun conversations about maybe shit that only you and I care about. But I'm sure there's others like that are.
We get messages that prove that there's others, but and that's awesome, and I hope people continue doing that. And I feel the exact same way. Like it's something that, and we film usually late at night, so after everybody's gone to bed, and I get to kind of do what I care about.
I love this shit. Like I love doing this. This is so much fun for me.
And it's literally like,
all choked up, but like
it's legitimately like you said that.
Going through all the medical shit that I've had to go through, like this is the one thing I've been looking forward to. Like getting something in the can and start like getting back to normal for me. And I've been also, I forgot to say at the start of the show, like we're getting closer to possibly have the whole band back together.
Yeah. I'm not
gonna spoil it, but like there's talks about a return coming. So like it's even more things to be excited about. And like I don't know, man. Like it's just I'm very grateful like that we have this forum, that the people that are listening, the hour and a half that we've been talking, like that you're along this ride with us. No matter, I really don't care where it goes. I know success is measured in different ways, but like I'm having fun and interacting with the fans. I hate to call them fans, like our buddies that follow us on Twitter and listen to the show with us, because all you guys are our buddies. Like I enjoy shooting the shit with you and our society. Yeah, like I dig this. Like this is fun, man. Like this is this is what life's about. Like having something fun in a hobby you enjoy doing and talking with your buddies. And like, this is thanks. Like, thank you, dude. Like, I appreciate you for helping me figure out how to do something like this. And for all the heavy lifting you do behind the scenes. Like this is rad, dude. I'm very happy that we're doing this. And I know we're closing up shop soon, but I just wanted to get that in before we ended.
I definitely appreciate that. And, you know, and I'm excited to see, just like you, like if one person listens to this or 25,000 people listen to it, like that's awesome. It's legitimately just us sitting here and talking, and, you know, we're having our banter back and forth, and if people watch it and they comment, and I love it, and it's great. And, you know, going forward, we're talking, you know, about going live a little bit, and maybe after certain shows or whatever, like that's been the case that we're talking about. It just hasn't worked out yet. So, you know, that's not off the table. Like it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. We got another podcast we're working on, and there's some other stuff in the works for this podcast that I haven't even had a chance to talk to you about, so I'm not going to break it here. But
okay.
So there's things that like could potentially be something that, you know, I don't want to say takes us to the next level, because I'm not looking at that. Like I truly, like we said, it is what it is. If an opportunity comes our way, we're not going to pass it up, but we're not doing this and going to leave people out solely because we're trying to make money, right? This is our passion. This is our hobby.
This is what I do to like this
right.
is.
And if we happen to get to a point where we make some money off of it, enough to pay for the subscriptions, great. Right. So, but yeah, and all that talk, I remembered where I was getting to. So again, thank you, and right back to you. You know, come in and do this, and then to have built that relationship from TikTok into, you know, texting every day and truly becoming friends. Like, you know, that's something that's doesn't just happen by
I really do thank God for that. Like I've been through a lot of tough times in the last 6 months, and you've been there with me basically every step of the way, and keeping the word of the Lord with me, and the positive mental images and thoughts and prayer. Like you thank you. Like you're a good brother.
And I'll do my best to always be here for you and for anybody. You know, that's just how I try to operate. And once you're stuck with me, you're stuck with me. That's what I always tell everybody.
For life.
There you go. Perfect. To go
Sorry,
back,
I didn't mean to take you on a tangent. I'm back.
It was my fault, because I kind of got lost on my own there. But so we're talking about the WWE bringing them back. You know, Hogan comes back, Hall and Nash, but Lightning really couldn't strike twice, right? I don't know how much they were trying to milk out of it with the nWo, but if you remember, it only lasted for what, like a month with Hogan, like with the original three, because then you fast forward to, well, not really fast forward, but we get to WrestleMania 18, Hogan and Rock. And that was, I think, when they realized that now's the time that Hogan needs to be Hulk Hogan again, right? We need the red and yellow again, because this is his final run. We need to.
Well, the lead up was Austin and nWo, right?
Yeah, it started, and then you ended up having Austin and Hall work each other, and then Hogan and Rock.
That's right. Hall, and then Stone Cold give Hall like one of the greatest stunners of all time.
And then he disappeared.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Creative differences or whatever, but that's crazy that was. So the night after WrestleMania 18 would have been the debut of Brock Lesnar, who's still wrestling. That's insane.
Well, if Nash didn't have parrot legs, he'd probably still be wrestling, or flamingo legs. He'd probably still be wrestling too.
Possibly.
It's sad that 2 of the 3 guys are dead. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
But so along with that, like there's obviously, when something changes the landscape of whatever it is, it's gonna leave a legacy, right? There's something that's going to be left behind, and nWo kind of gave birth to what modern faction looks like. Maybe not so much with 1,000 members, but that core membership of the nWo, I think gave birth to. Obviously, I think it was directly responsible for Degeneration X. I'm not saying that they ripped anything off, but I think that the idea of going from a guy on top or one person on top to a faction that's going to get a push, right? And I guess it could be argued that
Well, not even DX alone, but like
Four Horsemen as well. But like
the elite, like I hate them, but the elite, the elite, like
the bloodline,
we even do, the bloodline
club, like so many of them that have come afterwards, that
they're all germinations of what the nWo was.
100%. And if you think about it, a couple of them black and white merchandise, right? Yeah. DX might have been the only one that doesn't have just the black and white merchandise out of that. And they have the anti-heroes in them. The reality-based storylines is another legacy that's left behind. And then wrestling factions were cool again. You had the Four Horsemen before then. But how about other many cool factions could you think of leading up to the nWo? The Heart Foundation. It's just a handful of them, but still, these guys took it to the next level. And I think the best thing to come out of it was what I just kind of skimmed over on accident there. The reality-based storylines, I think, is what allowed wrestling to become relevant again in the 90s. And doing that today, I think, is what's helping it remain relevant, and they're finding new ways to go about it. But they had to get away from all the cartoonish, like, out there stuff. And I say that, and they had Undertaker who shoot lightning bolts out of his hands, and we had the Fiend and all that. So there's a place for everything, but for reality-based storylines to be the whole, like to be the larger chunk of the pie, I think is needed. To have anti-heroes, I think is a good thing, right? The bad guys that get a fan backing for whatever reason. So just
not to tail back too much, but like these all felt like real characters versus cartoon figures and garbage men and fucking clowns and a police officer and like a Mountie, and like it was almost like you're insulting your audience, because as we were growing, the WWE's fan base was growing also. Like there's a lot of people in your and I age range that are kind of grew with the product. And so when we kind of aged out, like it restarted and became the PG era again. And I feel like we're kind of growing back to where like they say bitch and shit and other choice words, and it's like, oh, okay, we're getting closer to like
the
puppies and titties, and then we're gonna go back to PG again.
Yep.
I don't know. I think it's funny.
It's something cool to look back at and look at, to see the cyclical nature of everything, of not just wrestling, but of just society in general.
Well, and that's another thing about society is like reality TV has been blowing up since 2002, and WWE's partly responsible for that.
Yeah.
Or they kind of just pushed it over the edge where now it's like, okay, we need to see Housewives, and we need to see Trump's Boardroom, and we need to see Survivor and all these Amazing Races and all these other television shows that are reality based, the Jersey Shore. Like we want in your face, and like I want to hear the stuff that I'm not supposed to hear, and like kayfabe is dead. Like 100%. Shoot on me, brother.
So I think we covered the good bit there of the impact that nWo had, and influences it had, and how it became a thing. And obviously we're going on almost 2 hours here, but we could probably go another 2 hours if we really wanted to break it down, right? If we would
we blew by chapters 5 through 9.
Right. If we would really break down the years of 97 and 98, right? I think we could probably do an episode of 96, 97, and 98, like 3 different episodes there. But again, this wasn't necessarily a deep dive. This was just celebrating the 30 years that has,
we still haven't done a real like Stone Cold centric episode. We talked a little bit in a recent episode about him and Bret Hart with the turn, but like we really haven't gotten into the meat and potatoes of a Stone Cold. Like,
there's a lot.
My God, that's Stone Cold. My God, he's gonna stop a mud hole and walk it dry. Oh my God, my God.
And I can't wait till we can start getting into that. And we're taking these as they come. Anniversaries like this, you kind of have to stop one. So we'll see what the future brings. But before we get out of here, a couple questions that we can answer, and then we can obviously want the audience to answer. So if you're still listening to us, comment down below. First question: what was the nWo the greatest faction ever?
Just
again, these questions they're debate questions essentially. So
it's era dependent, because I mean, very simple rules. If I do this, you know what I'm talking about. And for podcast listeners, I'm just putting up 4 fingers. That meant something back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 4 Horsemen, or the nWo, or the Bloodline. Like, I still do this, and I'm not even a big Roman Reigns fan, but like, I've still put the finger up as I acknowledge my tribal chief. And then what are we talking? The Dangerous Alliance also as a faction? Are we talking the Filthy Animals? Are we how deep are we going to go? Like, right. That's a whole series of episodes that you and I can go down. It just it's very specific to your own likes and needs. Like, the Clique is a faction, even though they weren't really together.
They're unofficial faction.
Yeah, like or God, a BSK? Like, are we going to go deep diving that way? Like, DX has to be up there, and all 8 members. The New Day, the Bloodline, the Shield. Are we going to talk about AEW stuff? Because then we got to talk about the Elite.
I think it covers everything, like even Japan or whatever. I mean, to me,
the Bullet Club. Yeah.
So to me, I'll go ahead and throw my answer out there too. You already said yours, but I'm just gonna go for it and say yes. It was the greatest faction ever. It could be argued, I think, that 4 Horsemen is right up there, but the nWo changed the complete landscape of wrestling. A lot of what it developed professional wrestling into is still a thing today. The Hills being the cool guys, right? Merchandise, just so many things that still live on today. That I should be able to sit here and name a lot more of it. It's stuff that we just went over, but I'm having a brain fart. But to me, they stand at least a solid argument as being the greatest faction
ever. They're there. They may be one. I could be sold.
I think that's right. I think that's what I meant. I'm going to go ahead and take the bite and say they are, but I could easily.
There's too meaty. There's too much meat on the bone to just say, for me. And I'm just being devil's advocate because I think I agree with you, but there's just too much meat on the bone to go the other way and make an argument counter to what you just said. Like, there's single guys that didn't need a faction that were just as influential by themselves. If that makes sense. Like, Stone Cold didn't need anybody to have his back, and he went after everybody. Like, I don't know. I guess I can really get into it, but I just
a lot of different angles, ways to approach it.
2 hours in, and that's probably a subject but it's a great question.
I think so too. I think the next one we'll probably be able to skim right through here. Should it have ended sooner?
Yes.
Yes. Or if it was as drawn out as it was, there should have been a definitive ending. No matter what, there should have been a definitive ending. I don't know what that would have been. You know, do they just break up and go their separate ways? Do you have a match for ultimate control of whatever? Like, I don't know what it looks like. That's not my job to come up with. But I would have liked to seen like this is it. But definitely needed to end sooner, and definitely not have so many different parts. Like, I get it, breaking into the wolf pack, that was cool. Then they could go against each other and just kind of dissolve or whatever. But yeah, definitely should have ended sooner.
That's what scares me about the bloodline.
Yeah, it's getting old.
It gets a little stale right now. I'm giving them benefit of the doubt, but where are we going? What are we doing? What's the plan?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Are we doing it just because, or is there a reason? Yeah.
Exactly.
Was Hogan's heel turn the greatest moment in wrestling history? I'm going to say it was the greatest heel turn. I don't know if I can go as far as saying the greatest moment. Just because I have to sit down and be like, if you're asking me to say what is the number one moment in all of professional wrestling history,
I'm
gonna need a little bit of time. I'm gonna need a little bit of time, but I can firmly say, mainly because we did an episode about it, I wholeheartedly believe that the Hogan heel turn was the best heel turn in professional wrestling history.
I can't argue with you, but I wasn't prepared to either. But off the top of my head, I would agree. I also, greatest moment in wrestling.
It's tough because
right off the top of my head is WrestleMania Toronto, Hogan versus Rock. That would be my outlier to, okay, you have to beat that.
Okay.
But then again, that could be a greatest match. Was it the greatest match? Probably not the greatest match, but it meant something.
But what does being the greatest match mean? Who can measure the technical aspect of it?
Well, Shawn and Brett.
Is that something that you can measure though? Or is it just like a feel?
No, it's all subjective because
right, exactly.
There's no measurable. There's really it's what you put as the measurable. Like what
right.
There's people that have never seen Shawn versus Brett. Like it's whole encompassing the lead up, Jose Lothario, him pointing and then Shawn ziplining in, like the theatrics to that. Yep. There was steps to it. And then Hogan Rock was like, Hogan came in as the bad guy and left as the good guy in the middle of a match.
Right.
Like what?
Everything up. Well, what about, I mean, let's throw another thing out there. If we're talking about greatest moments, Undertaker and Michaels, WrestleMania 25. We're just looking at WrestleMania stuff. Like there's so many things. And again, that's a match, not a moment. But Ric Flair being forced to retire, like losing his match. Like
Shawn versus Rick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I love you. Like,
yeah. That's what I was trying to but yes, that mean, like there's so many things, and it's an era dependent thing, I think, like you said in the beginning.
It's so subjective because like we really should do like a countdown to like from here to the end of the year on greatest matches, but you and I would have to off air put that together. Yeah. But
we can do it.
We should do that. But like Shawn Razor WrestleMania 10 is always going to be in my top 5 of all time. And it may not even be in your top 100 matches.
Right.
But because of what it meant to me, that whole card, like Yoko versus Brett versus Owen, like,
Favorite match
of Hogan's or of all time?
Of all time.
It's got to be. Fuck.
Immediately, what comes to mind? Okay.
Hart.
WrestleMania 13.
Blood from a Stone.
Okay. Mine is
God, that's going to be such a stupid answer when someone throws out like a way fucking better match.
so mine is this probably isn't one people are going to see coming. Samoa Joe versus Christopher Daniels versus AJ Styles, TNA Unbreakable
Wow.
2005.
Great match. Holy shit. Never thought you'd go with TNA as when you're. I thought you were going to say a WCW match.
Nope. So that's number one. Number two that stands out to me personally, and I don't know why, always has Randy Orton versus Cactus Jack Backlash 2004. That's been like
Good
my guilty
match.
pleasure.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't include one of the Piper dog collar matches.
Yeah. In WCW, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Halloween Havoc 97.
Yes.
You know, so there's so many things like, but to me, I think my ultimate, what I've deemed in my mind as my favorite match ever is that triple threat match.
Yeah.
There's actually a wrestler that I heard not long ago that he feels the same way. It's also his favorite match. And I was like, oh, really? But I don't remember who it was.
That's interesting.
Who was your favorite NWO member? And I guess let's stick.
God damn you for getting me this not prepared for this.
I'm not really prepared either. I didn't put much thought behind those. So like
that's a great question. And I have it in your notes and I didn't even look at it. Shit.
Let's stick with black and white NWO. I think personally, just based off of
I hope we have different guys because I got my
going from like who he was and me not being a big fan of him to turning into what he became for the NWO. I think my favorite is, I don't even really want to say it, but I think Hogan.
Oh, okay. Not mine.
Who's yours?
The man who started the whole thing, Scott Hall.
Okay.
He was like,
I'm not mad at that.
He was the journeyman, architect, mechanic, all wrapped in one. Like, he didn't need, like he said, the medium-sized guy and the big man. Like, he didn't need to be upper echelon Hogan. He could be the guy who fought Stone Cold and put on a hell of a match.
Yeah.
I just wish drugs and alcohol didn't
I agree.
fuck him up because man, he was a worker. And man, if you saw him in public, that guy was fucking yoked, dude. Like it doesn't do him a service to see him against the giants of WWE because he was even the Diamond Stud. Like, I mean, he was just muscles on muscles. I'm like, and he just moved like so, like, hey, yo, like he was just, he really did ooze machismo, man. Like that was cool. Like he put the cool in NWO. Like he was the O. Like, and then the whole hitting the soda and then doing this, like,
and I love that you say this because, like, I think it gets easily forgotten. Like, he really was the founder, storyline, and like it just disappeared that because it all became about Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff and
with the jean vest and no shirt underneath.
Yeah,
with his Canadian tuxedo type thing going on.
He's the OG, so I can't be mad at that.
I mean, Nash gets overlooked a lot, but Nash was hurt a lot, dude. Like Nash tried to
just like he was in WWF, but he was kind of just the guy that was there, and I don't want to just say that. Like he had
did this, and like he had his role.
Yeah. He was never the guy when he was in the NWO.
And he worked like a cruiserweight when he's a heavyweight. And you're trying to do all these things that it's just not in your body composite. Like Big Show had the big problem with that early too until Taker sat him down and said, hey man, stop selling for this bullshit. What are you doing?
As a former big guy, it's hard because you don't want to be the slow, methodical, like I can only do this because you feel like you get overlooked in a way. Like you feel like people are just going to be like, oh, this fucking guy. You know, so you want to have something to make you stand out, but then when you get into the business longer and you understand psychology and you understand the why, it makes sense, like why we're doing what we're doing and why I'm not going to fall down the first time you hit me, because you're 3/4 my size, like you're half my size. So
well, are you familiar with Brody King?
Yeah. So it's going to take you twice. You got to hit me twice. Like I can still fall and I can still do these moves, but why? There's got to be a why. You hit me twice, I'll fall down.
What do I always say? I need a why.
That's why. Yep.
I need my why. But Brody King is a big dude, and he's doing cannonballs into the corner pocket. Like,
yep.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like,
but I get that
you can do it, but you shouldn't have to do it.
And that's the hardest thing to learn.
Hold on to it until you get to like one of their giant pay-per-views, All In, All Out, Revolution. Like, make it be like a spectacle that you can do that.
Yep.
Like when Taker started walking the ropes, his daughter's doing it, by the way. She's training to be a wrestler.
All that.
Like that was something you didn't see all the time, and he didn't go to that well every match, but when he did, you paid attention. Like that was cool. I don't know. But Hall was probably my favorite NWO member, but I can see why you'd say Hogan, and I can see why someone would say Nash. Nash was fucking cool. Big Daddy cool. Like he was cool. He didn't know what an adjective was, but he was cool.
One last question. Could the NWO storyline succeed in today's wrestling landscape with social media and instant news?
Yes, but it'd have to be done in a super specific, only 2 or 3 people what people know way. And with that's tough, because the Meltzers and Saps and all these like Twitter pages, they all know contracts, they all know all the stuff that's going on, so it's hard to say. Let's see how AEW handles the New Day going over there, and then we'll see if something can be surprising. You know,
I think you have the ability to like create a faction and them get over, but I don't think you have the ability to make it be an invasion angle from another company. Not with social media news, because like, I mean, like with Baron Corbin, like he played it off like he wasn't going to WWE, or you know, he tried to do that. He tried to make it a secret, but somehow people knew.
Well, they stripped the titles off.
I don't know that you can have, and I don't know that you can have. Say you stick to 3, like we can't have one person get away from a contract. How are we going to have 3 people get away without somebody noticing and somebody getting it to us? And you know, I just, if it could happen, it's like a 1 or 2% chance. That's where I feel like it's not completely impossible,
but it's very unlikely.
Yeah,
but it's like, okay, outside of the click, if you didn't tape trade, you didn't know that happened.
Right.
The New York event at MSG, like you didn't know that happened, so you didn't know that Hall and Nash were friends.
Yeah,
because they never really touched, they never really worked a program in WWE. Like they may have at one point, but nothing. You just never put them together, and so it would be like Jericho. See, but Jericho's so high profile, everyone would know he's coming.
Right.
It'd have to be like the Young Bucks and MJF coming to AEW, coming to WWE from AEW, and their contracts being 2 to 3 weeks apart, and like MJF comes over, and then the Bucks, or vice versa.
I just don't think it could be I don't think it could be kept a secret, and I don't think.
I think Tony would leak it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I don't think it would be. I mean, you if it's gonna happen, I don't think it can be pulled off as a shock. I just don't. But yeah, so I think that pretty much, we're over 2 hours in. You know, I think we've
The hell of a comeback.
Yeah, there you go. It's a marathon, and we're gonna hop on X here for a little bit after this. So we're definitely testing your endurance on the time, the first day back, and also
you hit me with the hot tag and you left me in, brother.
You're taking the heat, damn it.
Hot tag, and then you walked out on me.
Damn right, damn Skippy. But some wrestling storylines, they entertain us, and others make history. But what the NWO did was something even bigger than that. It completely changed the rules, and that's what we kind of talked about here. Just from the get-go, it blurred the lines between fiction and reality, and made our heroes villains and villains icons, and it was something that we bought into. I mean, we didn't hate them, even though they're the bad guys. But 30 years later, here we are celebrating what made wrestling what it is today, and I wholeheartedly believe that. Every invasion angle, every dominant faction, every anti-hero, I think it all still lives in the shadows of those three letters that we talked about in the beginning, and we've talked about since then, nWo. Because whether you love them or you're tired of seeing them, the New World Order didn't just change WCW, it changed professional wrestling. And I don't think that can be argued against. We can try, but that's one thing that you're not miss me with. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this deep dive, which could have been a lot deeper, if you enjoyed this deep dive, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Share it with somebody who loves wrestling as much as you do. And remember, stories, they don't stop here, guys. But until next time, keep chasing that cheap pop, my friends.
See ya.